Welcome back to another episode of Healed by Faith. In this episode, we're going to be talking about the different layers of our energetic being. And this is really important to understand because we tend to have a belief that our brain is what creates consciousness within us, but that's actually not true. Our brain interprets the different stimuluses that are coming at us and creates one clear picture that is simple enough for us to be able to understand and navigate through our world. The purpose of our brain isn't to create consciousness, it's actually to limit our consciousness. And when we get our mind out of the way, then we can actually tap into higher consciousness. And this is the whole purpose of meditation. When you get your mind out of the way, you can start to receive downloads of information from God. You also start to be able to receive the healing light of God passing through your body. And there is now a lot of proof out there that this light can literally restore our DNA. It doesn't change our genome, but it changes our gene expression by changing our epigenetics. I know this is a little bit of sciencey stuff here, but basically all you need to know is that you can literally change your gene expression. You can change your DNA by getting your mind out of the way and letting light, source energy, intelligence, the characteristics of God pass through your body. And so what I learned through this journey is actually really fascinating, and it relates a lot to Chinese medicine. Now, there was one point in history when Chinese doctors were by far the best doctors that have ever existed. Genghis Khan in 1100 AD basically took over the entire world. He was a huge ruler, took over Europe, the Middle East, all the way to Eastern Asia. And whenever he would dominate a new region, he would find the smartest people from each one of those regions and discover, hey, what do you know? Some people were best at engineering. The Chinese people were the best doctors. And Chinese medicine really talks about the body in terms of energy. It talks about qi. Qi is like the life force that keeps us alive. And if that life force gets blocked or clogged or can't pass through certain areas, that's what leads to different diseases, including cancer. It's like if our life force can't pass through our cells in certain areas, then our DNA can't be restored by that light that needs to flow through us. And therefore, we get DNA manipulation that ends up leading to certain diseases like cancer and whatnot. Also, this is why, like, these paralytic people, like when I was at Joe Dispenza's meditation event in Mexico, I saw a guy who literally came in paralyzed, and by the end of the event was throwing his wheelchair aside, able to walk again. He was able to restore his cells, almost like stem cell therapy. He was able to restore his cells by allowing this light, this qi, this source energy, the source of the universe, to be able to pass through him by getting rid of these energetic blockages. So the real culprit here for most diseases is energetic blockages within our body. What does that actually mean? Well, I learned really in detail what this means when I was going into my first peyote ceremony. So at first, when I was entering this peyote ceremony, I was in pretty dire condition, and I didn't know if peyote was going to be able to help me heal. And so the first thing that I did was I asked God, I basically set my intention before the ceremony. I was like, just show me how you work, And what's incredible about these medicines is that you can literally ask them to teach you things, and they can teach you. Like, we could have major scientific breakthroughs if we started sending scientists down to the Amazon to ask deep questions that could lead towards breakthroughs in energy and all this other stuff. But of course, the medicine only reveals itself at the right time when God allows. But anyways, I set my intention to understand how this medicine works, and it gave me a full-blown science diagram. And basically what that diagram showed me was that at the center of our energetic being is our heart. This is like the seed of our soul. It's basically God's divine energy within us is always within our heart. And then we have different layers of energy that span out from our heart. And in our fully awakened state, those different layers are collapsed into one picture. And I call this picture the matrix because it's not the full scope of our reality. It's a collapsed picture. It's a limited picture of what is actually happening around us. Like our brains cannot handle all of the information that is flying at us. So it takes all these different stimuli that we have, all these different layers of being, and puts it into one picture so that we can actually navigate life and be functional human beings. If that wasn't happening, it would be like you're constantly walking around this world on peyote. Now imagine trying to be a functional human being when you're constantly on peyote or ayahuasca or mushrooms. It would be pretty difficult, wouldn't it? And so what happens when we meditate and also when we sleep and when we take these different plant medicines is that they take this collapsed state and they start to show us that we are actually multiple layers of being, and our different layers of being begin to separate. And so your body, it like dissociates from its other layers of being, and you can start to work on your different layers of being independently. So you have a physical body, you have a material physical body, of course, but you also have an energetic body, which is basically, it is shaped like your physical body, but think of it as like your life force. This is like the electricity of your cells. Then you also have an emotional body, you have a mental body, and you have a spiritual body. And then you have different layers of your aura and whatnot. And I truly don't understand. I don't know this all to the full extent, but what I do understand is that you have at least these like 5 different layers of being. And so when the plant medicine like separates those different layers for us, what's happening is they're making gaps between those layers, and when those layers begin to separate, there's now breadth that is created between those layers. So stuff, energies, or spiritual matter, if you want to call it that, can then move outside of those different energies. And so a lot of times, like one incredible thing too is that our breath is actually super important in this process. Our breath creates breadth between those layers. We literally breathe through those layers, and the layers continue to expand and widen as we breathe through them. But it also, our breath is cleansing. Our breath gets that energy out of our bodies. This is why yoga and meditation and breath work is so effective. And it's why when you go get a massage, they tell you to calm your mind when you're getting that massage, which is really hard when it hurts, right? But they tell you to calm your mind. And then in addition to calming your mind, to breathe through the knot. And as you breathe through the knots, that energy that is creating the knot dissipates out of your body, ideally, if you can get your mind calm enough and if that knot is not too big. Of course, there are some pretty big knots that we can even dissociate our different layers of being. It's really hard to remove. Well, you can, of course, remove these stuck energies in a multitude of ways. Chinese medicine found out that you can do it through acupuncture. Of course, you can do it through meditation. And even when you sleep, this is what's happening. Our body is like subconsciously cleaning out our energetic layers of being. If like God knew that if we didn't purposely shut down our bodies so that we would become still and that our bodies would subconsciously do this work for us, then all sorts of energetic like crap would have gotten stuck between our layers. We would have gotten sick super, super, super fast because very few people take the conscious effort in order to heal their energetic layers. But the moral of the story here is that we are different layers of being. We need to be able to open up those different layers of energy so that we can cleanse energy out of it. And so meditation is a super powerful tool, but so is prayer. And what's happening when we pray is we're literally calling down spirits of light. We're calling down like angelic spirits, and these spirits have amazing ways of working. I have seen how some of these spirits work through ceremony, and they do just the most magical, incredible things. Like, for example, during one ceremony, the angels literally built like a gold temple over me. It was like a healing temple. And by like building this healing temple over me, they were healing me. Now, this temple actually looked a lot like temples, like spiritual temples that you would see from like these ancient civilizations. And so what's crazy is like through all of this, I came to realize that ancient civilizations used to open themselves up through plant medicine all the time. And what they were doing when they were building these temples, the reason why there's so many temples all over the world, like pyramid-shaped temples, is because the angels themselves built pyramid-shaped temples when they were healing. And so the people were actually mimicking what they saw during plant medicine ceremonies when they were building temples. Isn't that fascinating? And another way that they healed me, for example, because I had parasites, which had the characteristics of snakes, right? Well, they built like a paradise, like a grassy, forested paradise in like the spiritual realm to basically coerce the parasites out of me. And so these are like the magical things that angels do. They work in so many different ways. Some of them have like come down like a blanket and like given me a big hug of like white light. It's just incredible, like different angels with different characteristics. They all fall underneath. Like if it's an angel of light, all the angels of light are good. Like they're on the same side. They're within the army of Christ. They have divine energy, you know? And so as long as it's an angel of light that's healing you, I have no problem with it. You know, I don't worship angels. It's not idolatry. Like I'm praying to the angel. I'm praying to Christ and I'm praying to God. But they send down like a magical army, right? I've also been able to experience how Angel Gabriel works, and he is like completely different than all of the other beings. When he heals, it feels like he's healing me like a dementor is actually sucking the energy out of me. There are other times when I felt healings where it felt like Christ's blood was being dripped over me, you know, like healing blood. And of course, that I couldn't see that actually happening. But there's all sorts of different like methods of healing that come through these angels, where what they're doing is they're literally just pulling the energy that's stuck between your different layers of being. This is something that you can't do on your own. Like you actually have to just completely surrender to Christ, to God, to the methods that they have, the healing methods that they have, because you and we can't create healing temples full of angels, right? We have to just pray and ask for them. We can't create like spiritual dimensions of that coerce, you know, serpents or parasites out of our bodies. We literally have to just allow them to do their work and just know that what they're doing is actually the best for us. So this is some of the crazy stuff when we get down to like healing, digging into like the spiritual layers of being. It's one of the reasons why we can't get down to the root cause of disease on our own. Medicine will never be able to get there. The only way we'll be able to get there is through spirituality. But once you begin to understand that we are multiple layers of energy, that everything is very much what it looks like in quantum physics, you know, that everything is energy, then you begin to understand that disease is also just a blockage of energy. And these dark entities, like if you have an entity, then those dark entities are creating the blockage. Otherwise, there can be other different types of energies that perhaps aren't an entity that are creating a blockage. The point is, regardless, you have to get it out. And you don't have to know how to get it out. You just need to know how to pray and how to request like the angels to be able to work for you. So anyways, in the next episode, we'll dive deeper into this. I hope that this enlightened you a little bit on the bioenergetics of the human body. And it just really opens up so many different opportunities for research and for study, because like breath work is a huge part of it. Plants can be a huge part of it. And then obviously like different prayer, repentance, and the things that we learn in the Bible can be a huge part of it. So there's a lot of possible combinations in order for us to be able to attack different diseases. And this is what I'm really excited about researching in the future. All right, I'll see you in the next episode, and thank you for joining me.